So I time my exams by using the time feature. Let me just actually pull it up. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. So here would be an example. So when we're looking at the options, here are my general options. This is graded, and here it is right here. If I click this box, then I can enter in a time limit for this particular exam. This is where I would show whether you're allowed to do multiple attempts. So I keep the highest score out of 3. And then I personally let the students see their responses so they can get immediate feedback, because that's kind of the idea with this style of quiz, not for my exams. I don't do it for exams. I eventually let them see it, but not right away. And then this one right here, if you don't click it, it will they'll see what they got wrong, but they won't necessarily see the correct answers. But since I'm using this as a low stakes learning strategy for my quizzes, I will let them see their responses as well as the correct answers. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I guess I also was wondering how much time, I mean, do you allow them just the same amount of time that you would in class? Do you allow them much more time for a regular exam? Um,
For a regular exam, so yeah, and I mean that's something that we've kind of been talking amongst with the instructors who teach this particular course. So I allow 75 minutes, just like I would for a regular section, um, and and but I've recently learned that ProctorU charges by the hour, so I think I'm going to push it down to an hour. So that's another thing that I've learned, like why make them pay for the additional 15 minutes that they're being allotted. Does that help answer that question?
yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome.
So, Feline, Jeff had a question about, does giving 3 chances, are you confident that the students read the material first and just see how they, read it first, or do they just perform and then read the materials?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
well, I do think that that's so there's something to be said for that. And I think that that's why I like to give different questions within the pools. So, or within the groups. So for some questions, I like the same question over and over and over so they can just nail the mechanics of it. And for that, you might fall into that strategy. They'll try it. They'll see that they didn't do it properly. They'll know how to do it. And if they're given different numbers, they'll be able to execute it. But for me, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. At other points, though, if I'm creating a group and I have the same difficulty level, but a lot of different ways to ask the same question, then I really feel like I'm honing in on their critical thinking abilities because the information isn't presented in the same manner. Does that answer that question?
Jeff, did that kind of hit what you were looking for? I think so.
Okay.
And I think, Feline, a key thing that you had said a couple minutes ago about that was, it sounds to me like you're using these quizzes as a way to do more of a formative assessment and part of your learning strategy for students,
Mhm.
and encouraging them to read the materials and master it, as opposed to maybe a summative
Right.
evaluation that you
Right.
might do with your exams.
Right. And so these quizzes that I do them every 2 chapters after they've gone through. I mean, technically what they're supposed to be doing is they're supposed to be reading the chapter, doing a pre-assignment, doing their handouts, doing a post assignment, and then after 2 chapters of that, then we do quizzing, which gives the information in a little bit of a shorter condensed style. So ideally by this point they've already had some practice with the material. Although, I mean, that's what I recommend. Those are the steps that I recommend that they take. But if they didn't really spend a lot of time in their homework and they didn't actually watch the lectures, I can see where this might be that style of like, okay, well, I guess I have to learn how to take these, how to answer these questions. But that's why I built it in so that exactly it can be a learning experience, and they can just get more practice with executing the material.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it looks like we have another question. And she's asking, can you please give us an example of how many questions you have in one quiz group or in one quiz for a group? Like, do you use 10 questions, and what is a good proportion or number so that they don't get repeated questions across multiple
That is
times?
such a great question. So I have to say, I'm not the hugest combinatorics person, and so I did put into my slides. Let me just say, oh, nope, no, 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 no. If I am right, sorry, I'm sure there's a better way to go about this, but I'm not seeing it right now. Okay, so in the what slide, I did put a link to this little combinatorics website that will give you an example of, okay, so let's say that I have 5 questions in my bank, then, or I'm sorry, in my group, and I'm asking them to choose, or I'm giving them 3 questions, and order is not important and repetition is not ideal, then that will give them, wait, where's the answer? 10 possible combinations. Or if I wanted to give 10 different questions within a pool, then it would give 120 possible outcomes. So I thought that that might be helpful, since I'm not necessarily into combinatorics or permutations. But what I have done basically is, because I'm developing these semester after semester, I'll find that if I do, let's use this as an so in this one, looks like I have a lot of questions. I say pick one question, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, well, not a lot, 6 different options. So each time they take the quiz, they'll get one of those 6 questions for their first question. Um, so, and then looks like I kind of have kept that as a theme. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so it looks like each of these questions has 6 different questions in there. And like I said, it's a work in process. It's a labor of love. And so each semester I'm just adding a question in or two. And now that I'm getting these banks all situated and sorted out, or that's my next, level of engagement, I think that will also help. And I can start pulling in things that I've put in different quizzes. I hope that helps some.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I haven't ever looked at that. I'm gonna have to go
Oh,
play with that. Math
I
is
know.
fun.
I know. I was like, is there an easy calculator that can just do this for me?